Hi everybody, I'm Zilla Blitz and welcome to episode 10 in our campaign game with Sherman Leader, the 2017 World War II tactical game from Verssen Games. Now we're starting week 3, the final week of our campaign, and up to this point we've got a good evaluation for our campaign. To bump it up to a great evaluation, we need to knock out 2 German battalions. However, we got beat up pretty bad in week 2. We lost 3 of our tanks and we just don't have a lot of firepower left. So it's going to be a pretty Herculean task for the remaining members of our forces. But let's jump right in and get started with our first battle. So let's do a quick overview of the campaign so far. We're at the end of week 2 and we have 14 victory points, which puts us in this good range for an evaluation. We want to try to take a risk here and bump it up to a great evaluation, and to do that we need at least 4 more victory points. The problem is we started out with 12 units in the campaign and we're down to 8, and we don't have any special option points to replace any of them. So let's see what we'll have to do in order to get those 4 points to get to that 18 score. So here's the operational map. We have 3 German battalions left at this massive headquarters, but we have a 2-point artillery unit and a 3-point small tank force. And if we could get these 2 battalions, that would give us the 5 points we need to get to the great evaluation. Now, one of the things that I overlooked right at the end of the last episode is that in order to attack units in this enemy transit area, we have to pay 1 special options point. And at the end of the last week, I said we only had 1 special options point left because we repaired the hull on Sergeant Meyer's tank and we gave everybody priority R&R. That reduced our 7 special option points down to 1. In order to make this more interesting, because if we had all of our units go against one of these battalions, it's actually going to be pretty easy for us. This gets to be a much more interesting story if we try for the great evaluation by splitting our units up into 2 incredibly difficult battles and see what happens. So we're going to actually allow us to undo repairing Sergeant Meyer's hull, which saves us the special options point and leaves us with 2 so that we can attack both units and make this much more interesting. So in our first battle, we're going to send 4 of our infantry units that are good at hitting high explosive targets against this artillery unit, which has 2 rifles, 4 anti-tank guns, and 2 mortars. So let's get started with the week and let's jump into the action. The first thing that we do to start the week is draw a special condition card. Let's see what we get. Battle hardened. Oh, interesting. Oh, this is a good one actually. Subtract 2 stress from each of your skilled, veteran, and ace commanders, and this applies to all our commanders for the whole week. So we'll go do that now. We have only 2 commanders that fall into those 3 categories. Sergeant Myers with his jumbo tank has a stress of 1. He's a skilled commander now because he just got promoted, so we can take that off of him. And Sergeant Hart on our mortar team has a stress of 4. He's been promoted to a skilled level in the previous battle, so we can reduce his stress of 4 down to 2, which is excellent. So that's a pretty good event card for us. None of our other commanders fall into this category. However, both Sergeant Hart and Sergeant Myers are not going to be in our first battle. They're going to be in our second battle. Now we jump into setting up the first battle for week 3, and to do that we draw an event card for this particular battle. Let's hope we can get lucky with this one as well. A lull in the fighting. Keep this card, discard at the start of the week to reduce any commander's stress by 3. Well, we're going to do that right away because that makes the most sense. This is our last week. So let's figure out who we're going to put that on. So we're going to use this right away. Sergeant Graham is going to be in this battle. He's pretty stressed out with a stress of 3. He's only got 2 more before he gets shaken. So it seems to make sense to take his stress off. So Sergeant Graham is completely recovered and is stress-free. Nice. Those 2 events helped us quite a bit. Here's a quick look at how our battle terrain has set up. This is an interesting one because we have heavy city terrain on the right-hand side here, and then 3 bocage points up there. So a lot depends on where the German units set up, but they have 2 mortar units that are going to be able to hit us from range. If we get lucky and they start here in some of these open hexes, that might help us a lot. If they start back in the bocage, they're probably going to stay there, which means it's going to be a long hike for us to close to them and knock them out, and that could create all kinds of problems. But let's see how this plays out. Here's a look at the units that we'll be using. Here's a look at the units we'll be using in today's battle. We've taken the best units that we can against soft targets. So Sergeant Zebra and Sergeant Headland will have our 2 machine gun teams. Sergeant Zebra, of course, with his experienced machine gun team and 1 tactic counter. very good against high explosive targets. Likewise, Sergeant Sanders and Sergeant Graham will take 2 of our rifle teams into combat. Now, Sergeant Headland's team does have a casualty to note, so if they draw another casualty counter, they are eliminated. But it'll be these 4 units that are going to try to wipe out this German artillery battalion. So here is our starting position. We've started all of our units down here. We can move our machine guns teams 1 square up, and we can move our rifle teams 2 squares up as we set up. We want to try to stay inside this city here because the German anti-tank guns have a range of 3. So if we're on the outside here, we could get hit early on. If we're in here, we can stay in cover until hopefully we get up here, which should close the distance for us. Because a big question for us is how quickly can our infantry teams close the distance and get in close to those mortars and those anti-tank guns, because all of our units have a range of 1 or 0. Here's a look at the enemy battalion we're going up against. We have 2 rifle teams, which are fairly effective with attacks of 5 against soft targets. And these 4 anti-tank guns, they have a range of 3. They're not very effective at soft infantry targets, though, with a hit factor of 7. So that's going to help us, but we still have to get next to them to be able to take them out. By far the biggest threat are these mortars. They're indirect fire, so they can hit us in the city. They have a range of 3. And their attack factor against soft targets is a 6. So these are the 2 biggest problems that I think we're going to have. Here's an overview of the German setup after they've come into place. We got actually fairly lucky here. The 2 mortars are on the right-hand side of the map, which are relatively close to us, so that's good. Rifle team started here, and they get 2 automatic advance orders, so they've closed right on us, so the fighting's going to start right away. And the anti-tank guns are scattered in the open. None of them ended up in the bocage, which is good. Some of them kind of close to us, so not at all, I think, a bad rolling for the German setup for us here. So let's get started with the combat. Before we start the battle, we have to roll for the German aggressiveness. A 1 to 5, we use a 6-sided die for their tactical movement each turn, and a 6 to 10, and we use a 10-sided die for their tactical movement each turn. Let's see what we get. A 1. So we're going to use a 6-sided die, which is going to make the German movement more conservative, which probably works against us, honestly, in this battle, because we kind of want to close the range as quickly as possible, so it would have been nicer if we were going to have them be more aggressive, but we'll deal with it. So let's get the battle started. Sergeant Zebra has a tactical movement counter, but it doesn't make sense to use it now, so we're going to let the Germans roll and have their turn first, rolling on a 6-sided die to determine their movement. Get a 4. Advance to cover, adjacent cover, and hold. So let's see how that impacts their movement and get things going. The easiest thing we can take care of are the anti-tank guns for the Germans. All of them have orders to hold, and none of them have targets. So the anti-tank guns, all 4 of them, will stay where they are, and they are done. Now let's go to the mortars. The farthest mortar away, both mortars have orders to hold. Both are within range of our units, and they have indirect fire, so they don't need to have direct line of sight. So let's take care of this farthest away one first, which is firing at a range of 3. He can aim for either one of these rifle units. The 903rd under Sergeant Sanders has the most stress already and is the easiest one to drop into the shaken category. So I think it would probably make sense for the Germans to target that. So they're going to shoot, range of 3. There is a 2 penalty. They need 8s or better to hit 2 shots. A 9 and a 3. Earthquake. 9 and a 3. One of them gets through. Sergeant Sanders is in high terrain, has a defense of 3. So with the +2 bonus, you need 5s or less to negate it. A 7. Already we're drawing our first damage chit. See what we get. Ooh. Commander wounded. Sergeant Sanders is wounded. Now, this doesn't impact performance, but if he is wounded again, he is killed. This second mortar team will likewise fire on Sergeant Sanders' unit. Needs a 7s or better at range 2. A 4 and a 2, both misses. Nice. The rifle units have orders to move to adjacent cover, and all 3 of these hexes qualify. I don't think it would make sense for them to move here because then they can be immediately fired upon by the 2 infantry units behind our front lines. So we're going to have one of them go here and one of them go here. I don't know which is better, and I don't think splitting them up matters either. So let's move this one here. He'll immediately fire on Sergeant Sanders. Normally needs a 5, but with the attack penalty for moving, he needs 7s or better to hit 2 shots. 1 and a 2. 2 misses again. Let's take care of the second rifle unit. He'll go to the right, fire on Sergeant Sanders. 7s or better. A 6 and a 1. Both misses. This German artillery battalion not off to the greatest start. Let's see if we can get some revenge here as we turn into our half of the turn. We'll start with Sergeant Sanders and his 903rd. They're going to fire on the rifle unit immediately to their left that was firing upon them. High explosive, they need 5s, but Sergeant Sanders gets a +1 to his dice roll now at range 1 because he's green. So we need 4s or better to hit, 2 shots. 8 and a 6, we get 2 hits. Sergeant Sanders, the rifle unit needs a 3 defense, but in high terrain it needs 5s or better to survive, 5s or less to survive, 6 or more, and we've knocked it out. 2 and a 1. Ah, it survives. Okay, let's shift to Sergeant Graham, firing likewise on the rifle unit. Same odds, same basic attack. Sergeant Graham needs a 4s or better to hit, 2 shots. 4 and a 9, 2 hits. The rifle unit once again needs 5s or less to survive on both of these. 8 and an 8, it's knocked out. Yes, we get our first kill. Congratulations, Sergeant Graham. Next up, we're going to have our machine gun units move forward up with the rifle units. However, if they were to attack, they would incur a lot of stress. We don't want to do that so early in the battle. So that brings us to the end of turn 1. Let's move on to turn 2. We are still going to hold on to Sergeant Zebra's tactics counter. We're going to save it till we move up in range of the anti-tank guns and mortars because I think that makes sense against those tougher units. So we'll go right to the German movement here, rolling on a die roll, 1 to 6, a 4, exactly the same as last time. Advance to cover, adjacent cover, and hold. Let's take care of the German turn. Anti-tank guns have the same situation as last turn. Their orders are to hold and they have no targets. So their turns are done, providing us no damage. However, the mortars will start to fire on us. Let's start with the mortar in the back here, firing at a range of, its orders are as well are to hold, and it's going to fire at a range of 3. Now its target shifts because the rules state they are going to fire at the ones they have the best chance to hit. They're all the same. Then the second criteria is the lowest defense, and that means Sergeant Headland's machine gun team, which already, by the way, has a casualty on it. Firing at a range of 3, we add 2 to the die roll, so it needs 8 or better to hit. 5 and a 4, both misses. Let's shift now to the second mortar unit. Firing at a range of 2, it's going to need 7s or better to hit. Same target, Sergeant Headland. 3 and an 8, we get 1 hit. Sergeant Headland has a defense of 2 in high terrain. He needs a 4 or less to negate it. A 4, excellent, everything misses. This kind of creates an odd situation for this rifle unit, which has movement to adjacent cover. And it, by the rules state, it has to move to one of these 2 squares. I don't think it makes sense to go in here because it's going to get overwhelmed. So that means we're going to move it back where it was here. It's going to fire at Sergeant Headland's machine gun unit. It needs 7s or better to hit because it's moved. 5 and a 6, 2 misses. Completely ineffective artillery attacks on us this turn. We've gotten lucky. Let's see if we can get some revenge. We're going to start with, the idea is to try to knock this rifle unit as quickly as we can, and then have all our units move up here to be able to fire on the units in the field on the next turn. We're going to start with Sergeant Sanders' rifle team, trying to take on the German rifle team. Sergeant Sanders needs 4s or better to hit with 2 shots. 8 and a 1, we get 1 hit. Rifle team needs a 5 or less to survive. 3, it survives. Let's shift to Sergeant Graham, doing the same thing then, firing at the rifle unit. It needs 4s or better to hit, 2 shots. 1 and a 6, we get 1 hit. Let's knock this out. We need 5s or less to survive, 6 or greater, and it's knocked out. 3, God. All right, we're going to have Sergeant Headland try to take out this rifle team. Firing, he needs 2s or better at range 1. It's +1. He needs 1s or better to hit, so it's an automatic hit with the machine guns. Just for kicks and giggles, we make both hits. The rifle team needs 5s or less to survive. A 5 and a 10, we get it. Sergeant Headland gets his first kill of the campaign. Congratulations, Sergeant Headland. Now the question is, what do we do with Sergeant Zebra's machine gun team at the end? If we bring it up here, it can attack the units in the field, but it's also going to get attacked. However, that's where we can use the tactics counter, and I think it makes sense for us to keep pushing forward because we have a lot of work to do and not a ton of time to do that. So we're going to have Sergeant Zebra move up into this city and prepare to fire. Alright, at the start of turn 3, now we're going to have Sergeant Zebra use his tactics counter. So it burns it up so he can go first before the Germans part of the turn. And he's going to fire at this mortar unit right next to him in the open field. Sergeant Zebra needs 1s to hit or better, so they're automatic hits with the machine gun. Gets a 1 and a 5, 2 hits. The mortar team needs 2s or less to survive on both of these rolls. A 7 and a 5. Sergeant Zebra gets another kill. He is our kill leader, and the mortar team is down. Now it's the Germans' turn. Let's roll for the German movement on the 6-sided die. A 6. Oof, this is aggressive, perhaps when we did not need it. Okay, I think we're going to get attacked by everybody now. Things get interesting now. These anti-tank guns have orders of cautious advance, which means they advance towards us if they can't be attacked in the square they move into. This anti-tank gun, which is far away, will advance this way towards us. It is closer in range, but anti-tank guns can't move and fire in the same turn, so that one is done. However, these anti-tank guns, they won't advance because they would be able to be attacked if they were to advance closer to us. They're going to stay where they are, and all three of them can fire on Sergeant Sergeant Zebra. Now, I knew that ahead of time. Hopefully their attacks don't cause damage. We'll see how this works out. The first German anti-tank gun firing at Sergeant Zebra's machine gun unit needs 7s or better, but at range 2 it needs 8s or better to hit 2 shots. A 1 and a 3, both misses. Excellent. It's the same thing for this anti-tank gun back behind it. It needs 8s or better to hit 2 shots. 5 and an 8, 1 hit gets through to Sergeant Zebra's machine gun team. Needs a 5 or less to negate it. An 8, that's not what we wanted. Drawing a damage hit for Sergeant Zebra. Come on, Sergeant Zebra, get something good. Oof, another commander wounded. So Sergeant Zebra is wounded. Has no impact on his performance, but if we get another one, he is killed. The last anti-tank gun will fire. This one's at range 1, so it needs 7s or better to hit. A 1 and a 5, both misses. So Sergeant Zebra gets wounded, but survives the 6 volleys from the anti-tank guns. The last German unit to fire in this half of the turn is the mortar unit, firing at a range of 2. It needs 7s or better. It will target Sergeant Zebra because that gives it the best chance to hit. 7s or above to hit 2 shots. 1 and a 6. Yes, Sergeant Zebra has survived. Excellent. One of the nice things about those tactics units is that it allows that unit to go twice in the same turn. Sergeant Zebra now gets to act in the second half of turn 3 as well, which means he's going to give a chance to fire at the anti-tank gun. He needs 1s or better to hit, which is an automatic hit. With the machine guns, both shots hit. The anti-tank gun needs 2s or better to survive on both of these rolls. 1 and a 7. Sergeant Zebra gets what I believe is his 8th kill, knocking out the anti-tank gun. Excellent. Since this is our last week of the campaign, I think we can be a little bit more aggressive here with moving and attacking. So we're going to have Sergeant Graham move forward and fire at the anti-tank gun. This will add 1 stress to him, but he doesn't have any stress because we got that event that cleared it up before the week started. So we're going to have Sergeant Graham fire on that anti-tank gun. All right, so Sergeant Graham has moved and he's firing in the same turn, which will mean he gets a 2 die roll penalty. He normally needs 5s or better to hit, meaning 7s, but he gets a +1 at range 1, so 6s or better to hit against the anti-tank gun, 2 shots. 1 and a 5, both miss. As much as I would like to have our other units move and then attack, I think because they're on the brink of going under heavy stress, if they did so, getting shaken, that would really reduce their attacks. We are going to push them up and not have them attack this turn, because we have 3 turns left to get basically a few of these units here in order to knock it out. So I think we're doing well enough that we don't want to push the risk of the extra stress. So that brings us to the end of turn 3, and we will stop here. Let's take a look at the overall battle. So here's an overall look at the battle. With 3 turns left, things have gone pretty well for us. And we've knocked out a mortar unit, 1 anti-tank gun, and both rifle units. To get the battalion at half strength, we need to reduce it to 7, which would mean only 1 more unit knocked out, and this battalion would be down to half strength, which would change its movements orders. I think our mandate's going to be clear. We need to charge forward into the field to try to take out what's left. It's going to reduce our defense, but I think that's our best chance for the win. It's 4 on 4 right now, although we do have 2 commanders wounded and 1 machine gun team with a casualty already. It's going to be a wild finish. Hopefully we can take out this battalion. We will see you again in our next episode where we'll finish this battle. And if you've enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're new, please consider subscribing. I have no travel coming up shortly, so I think probably within about 3 days we should be able to finish this one up. Thanks again for watching. Have a great day.